So when you have kids, all you want is the best for them. You want them to be healthy, happy, and just to have the best of everything. And, you could be like myself and you can put them in the best sports activities, the baseball, we did cheerleading, or whatever that is. But at the same time, I thought about how do you set them up to be successful financially so that they are prepared going into adulthood more than anything with the right tools and guidance so that they can be successful, right? So they're not going out there and maybe grabbing a credit card as soon as they can, racking up that bill, and then, having to struggle for years to pay off bills that they might not otherwise have had if you had set them up successfully. So that is what I thought I'd do today. If you think this is interesting for you, give it a like, subscribe. These are my type of videos. And let's go from there. The other thing, the reason I thought I'd do this is I saw this kind of like reel the other day on there, setting up your kids financially, trust fund baby. I thought this was kind of interesting. As soon as they're born, you set up $2,000 in a Roth IRA, and then every single month you're doing $250. I did not check the math here, but this video is not this, right? Number one, I thought it was interesting that they said Roth IRA because, as far as I know, looking at ChatGPT, or this was Microsoft Copilot, while you can open a Roth IRA, and we did when my kids hit 16 and had a job and they could actually put money in Roth. My understanding is with all Roths, you need to have earned income. So I don't know how a child at zero basically could open up a Roth IRA and actually put money in there. So this video is not that, right? This video is for more, down to earth, what you can do as a parent, and financially be able to support it. Number one, if you can support $2,000 as soon as your kid or your grandchildren are born, and then on top of that to invest $200, $250 a month. What if you have the second child, right? And that now you're up to $500 a month, or what if you have a third child and you're $750 a month? I don't think most people could do that. So again, this video is not that. So I wanted to do more things that everyday Americans could do. Now, again, I would say before I start, if you're not financially set up, then this video is probably not for you. But again, I'm going to do very generic things that you can do to set them up financially. So maybe if you're still on your journey, you could do it. So let's start off with what I think you could do. And again, I'm going to go into a few different things on here. Number one is obviously opening an account for them, and I'll get into some of that of where I would recommend that you do it, and some of the investment choices that you could do. But right off the bat, I was thinking, right, what if you did $25 from the time that up to the time that they're 18, 8% return, and you were doing that $25 every single month. Oh, I'm sorry. You have no money in the account. I made a mistake there. You have $0 in the account for 18 years, and you did $25 per month. Okay, up until they're 18. You can see here they have almost $12,000, right? So you're putting them at 18 years old with almost $12,000. I think that is and it's only costing you $25 a month. So I think many parents could do that. Maybe they're skipping, an extra coffee or two a month. If you have 2 children or 3 children, it's $50 a month or $75 a month. Again, more of a reasonable dollar figure that many people could come up with. And I wanted to show what could that turn into down the road, right? Now, obviously, if you hand $12,000 to most children or young adults, they might spend it right away. But again, I wanted to show you what could that dollars turn into. So I thought, let's take this amount and then came over here, and I'm going to start with that amount. So I'm going to start with the amount of money that we said, right? And then going up to for 50 years. So they're 18 plus 50, so that's 68 years old. Well, let's be realistic. That's probably the age that Social Security is going to move up to, or maybe it's even higher. But at 68, with putting no more money into it, they have almost $550,000, over a $500,000 from you doing $25 a month. And let's go back and actually see how much of that was that you had to put in, for a total of, let's look at the report. I believe it'll actually show it for 18 years. Well, it's $300, times 18. I'm not actually going to do the math, but you can see it is not a huge amount of money. And for many people, that is doable. But let's do one more example. Again, starting with $0 for 18 years. And let's do, again, $25. But again, maybe you're a little bit more aggressive. Maybe you want to do something a little bit more. And maybe you could do $25 per week. Again, maybe for having one child or maybe two child, you could afford to do that, because $25 a week, about $100 a month. Maybe if you have two, right, you're doing $200 a month. Maybe you can stretch that and find that money. You can see here at $25 a week, they're going to have almost $50,000. Again, this is at an 8% return for 18 years. And again, if you took that money and compounded it over 50 years, not adding a single dollar to it, they could have that almost $2.4 million. So now you're going back to, let's bring it up. That's going back to almost this. Now, it's not the age of 45 that they're saying. It's not a Roth IRA because, again, you have to have earned income. But it is doable from a math perspective. Okay, so for me, this is number one, how you could set them up for financial success. Now, just doing this and not teaching them the rules of how to do things, they might take the money and go spend it, right? Immediately, draw that money down and not really learn from it. So I thought, let's go into a little bit on interest rates, right? Because that is actually something I think is very important. Something that I wish I had done because, most of my money has been in a traditional regular bank, Bank of America, Truist, there's lots of banks that are around the corner earning almost no interest for many, many years. But then you have some other places, right? And so I recently saw Capital One, and I really kind of do like this one, making 3.5% today. And of course that's going up, and that does go down based on the federal tax rates. But, looking at this rate, I did a comparison, right? And so I'm taking something very, very reasonable, right? So if somebody had $2,500 in their savings account, never adding another dollar to it, so maybe this for 10 years, either at a regular bank earning 0.01%, which is practically, zero, or using Capital One's at 3.5%. And this one you can actually compare up to 3. I'm not doing anything else. But if you look at the report, just having $2,500 in there, right? Not adding any money, maybe this is their quote emergency fund or whatever. Over 10 years, you could make almost close to $1,000. You're approaching $1,000 of just interest from having it in there. Whereas, again, over 10 years in that regular bank account, you made a whole $2.40, right? So it's practically nothing. I mean, you're actually losing money with inflation, of course, there. And, at 3.5, you're probably maybe just above it, but at least you're making something over nothing. So showing where to put your money, I thought is another interesting option. And again, going back to some of these 8% returns, you're not going to get that in a regular savings account, so you're going to need to actually invest it. So I brought up E-Trade, and this is where I actually started with my kids when they were very, very young. You can do, like I said, $25 here, $25 there, and they actually have these pre-built portfolios that you can actually go through a wizard and actually pick how aggressive or conservative you want to be, and it'll invest the money in those accounts. So that is how I think in a lot of ways you could set your kids up for financial success. And I'm going to go into one more detail, is, maybe not when they're 2 or 3 because you're going to be putting this money in there for them. But when they get up to a reasonable age and you can actually start to teach them compounding and the growth of money and showing that money, this past year, the market was up close to 20%. And let's go back to this example where we were only doing $25 a month. Maybe by the time they are, let's go 15, right? So they're actually getting, they can understand compounding interest and stuff like that. And they have $8,000 in there. They could understand on a year that you get a 20% return, you're going to get $1,600 added into your account. Now, again, there's going to be years where they're going to lose money, and you can show that over time the money grows. And again, that is why you want to teach them some of the investments. So the thing that I thought you could teach them is, and again, this is a mock-up of something I'm recently just trying, which is a net worth statement. So you can actually once a year have them enter in the accounts and the money that they have, and then show the year over year return and the percentage of what money they have. So you can show 1 year, maybe they had only $10,000, and then the next year, it jumped up to 15,000. Maybe they had a side job and they're adding money to the account and showing year over year, it went up 41%. So again, a little bit more visual. You could show the different savings accounts, the brokerage accounts, and again, showing that time value of money. And if you're doing something like that, like this, once a year, again, you could show that you can teach them a little bit more about financial success before they even get out into the real world and go to college and, or start their trade school or whatever. So again, I thought this was really interesting. If you, again, thought this was something that you do, or, I'm curious to hear, do you do something else? Are you not teaching, are you looking to set up maybe accounts for your children or grandchildren? So love to hear that in the comments. So again, if you find this interesting, you got anything out of this, give it a like and subscribe. Thank you very much.